Welcome to this series of 10 webinars by Smart Habitat Foundation. Smart Habitat Foundation is an excellence for art and architecture and for human settlement initiated by Creative Group and Professor Charanjit Shah. For the last 4 years, we are working on various aspects of art, architecture, we have various debates with students of architecture and teachers of architecture colleges, so that the interface between the practice of architecture and the teaching methodology could be understood. We have various like Indo-Russian conclave, and it's like a global debates by global architects and also allied professionals like PMC, project management consultants, construction management consultants, financial management consultants, quality management consultants, structural engineers, MEP, architecture, plus art and sculpture put together. We have the Vice President, Mr. Dr. R.S. Sodhi, Gurpreet Shah. We have advisory in terms of more than 400 professionals, including various more than 200 head of the departments of School of Architecture, plus practicing architects, then the green consultants, structural engineers, MEP consultants. All the eminent personalities are participating in giving the advice in terms of creating green Indian sustainable architecture. And these are the glimpse of the various workshops we study. We teach the students for about 15 days in-house, and then they do the publication. So all these things are being done at Smart Habitat Foundation with the help of all my colleagues, architects, friends, and other professionals. Now we club with the ASSOCHAM gems. You see Mr. Pankaj Dharkar, Mr. Hiranandani, Mr. Menon, all are now clubbed together, including the support of ASHRAE, ISHRAE, even FSAI, and all those allied bodies are also coming forward, and we are having a joint platform and now created these 10 webinar discussion on various elements of building industry in terms of creating that sort of an understanding, so that we have the interface between all of them together. These are some of the publications we have made for publication for evolution of steel. We have also done on smart city planning, and that is all what we do. And now we hope for a very large platform with ASSOCHAM and Smart Habitat Foundation to take it further. Thank you very much.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome to all of you. A very good afternoon from ASSOCHAM. I am Pinaki Dasgupta. I'm the co-chair Global Collaboration and State Chapters for ASSOCHAM GEM. Welcome to all of you to this wonderful webinar. And you have seen another wonderful video to start with. This is a great start, and I welcome you all. And I would love to say a few words about ASSOCHAM GEM. It started in 2017. And now we have grown to more than 25 projects across country with 10 chapters. So it's all because of stalwarts we have within our team, within our council, not only at national level but at state level. So I will go ahead and introduce our moderator of the day. He is also a very well-known personality, and he's I'm privileged to have with us architect Sangeet Sharmaji. He will be moderating the discussion in the next few hours. So it's my privilege to introduce him. Architect Sangeet Sharmaji is a practicing architect in Chandigarh. He is a partner in SD Sharma and Associates, a well-known firm of the region, founded by his father, Pujaniya Shri Architect SD Sharmaji. He's also an eminent architect. Sangeet Sharmaji is very widely acknowledged and awarded, and he commands an undisputed reputation in the profession, carrying forward the legacy and vocabulary established by his father. And in Chandigarh, he's fascinated by geometrical forms. His buildings are based on sustainable applications, and he is a very multifaceted personality. He is a poet, he is an architectural critic, he's also a writer, artist, and author. So, thank you so much, sir, for your time, and it's a great privilege to having you here. So the platform is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Paniki. And to this assembly of stalwarts and this assemblage of stars, I am a little nervous, but I am privileged and honored to be the moderator of this session. Thank you, Charanjit sir, for this opportunity. And I think this is the time when we talk about smart cities. The talk has been on, but we were not able to take a stand or decide on the parameters. The government talks, but it is we who have to take an action. So I think this debate and all the viewers on this platform, I welcome you all, and you are going to see how these people, how these architects, and how these stalwart peoples on this platform are going to tell you about the best about profession, the finest things about architecture, planning, and smart cities. So I'm sure after this hour and a half, we're going to go back enriched and highly knowledgeable. There is one very beautiful aspect to this conference today. This webinar is going to talk about 3 architectural books, and I'm delighted and honored to present your friends, architect Gurmeet Chauhan. Among us stars, he's an urbanist, architect, and futurist. And I think the amount of time he gives to making the things beautiful, but the buildings, the environment is fantastic. I see his biodata so fantastic. He has written a book, Invertonomics, and this is going to be something which is going to take the smart cities and other professional activities head on. I'm going to request architect Gurmeet Chauhan sir, who is one of the finest architects of the nation today, to talk about his book and to give us a glimpse, maybe in terms of 2 videos, and first to show us the cover of his book, sir. Over to you, sir.
I'm really delighted to be on this platform to launch this book. The name of the book is Invertonomics. It basically combines 2 words, and it inverts problems into economic opportunities. So using invert and economics, I've created a new word, Invertonomics. And this is a book of ideas that solves real problems of our country. And what it promises is that problems like air pollution, problems like traffic compliance, dirty cities, safety for women in our country, in our cities, the lack of education facilities for children who are not born in privilege, and therefore children who languish on construction sites, children who are seen on garbage dumps. We have a shared destiny. When we look at COVID, one of the most important lessons it has taught us is how we are all in it together. We are as safe as our mate. We are as safe as our driver. If they are safe, we are safe. And therefore, while the conversation today is about smart cities, it is also about citizen-centric, sustainable smart cities. In my book, Economics, it addresses many of these issues. So I'd like to begin with just sharing 2 videos and then speak a little more, because I think videos speak louder than words.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Over to you. Yes, please. Let's have his video. Amazing, sir. This is amazing.
There's one more video, and then I'll speak about the book. I thought it's good to bring in some humor into serious problems like kachra.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. There's hardly anything serious in life. Nothing. The next video, please. Yeah.
Book is in English, and it is a book published by HarperCollins. It is very important that when you are addressing real problems of a country, you have to be aware of the social behavior in a particular environment. And therefore, the purpose for making those videos in Hindi is to say that these are real ideas that will work with real people. This is not a Lutyens Delhi idea which is devoid of contact with reality. So today is an age of ideas. All the change that we see around us, whether it is Uber or the touch phone, it is all about a beautiful idea that somebody saw to fruition. And we find that today's ideas have a coming together of three things: money, technology, and good understanding of social behavior. And what these three things together they do is they make life more convenient, and they enable individuals to act in a new manner. So the book looks essentially at 8 ideas. 5 of them are about our cities. Air pollution, it affects the rich and the poor. Traffic compliance, safety, whether it is for our children in schools, whether it is for our women on the roads, or whether it is for us in a shopping mall in our colony. How safe is the environment to walk, to cycle? We find that in India, we lose 12 lakh people every year road safety accidents, and 48% are pedestrian accidents. What is it that we are doing as a community of architects, designers, city planners, or as a community as a whole to make our cities safer? What is it that we are doing for garbage management? if you see the way garbage is managed in our cities with large sanitary landfills overflowing, and then these little children who come there like vultures. I've got videos I can show you where 10-year-olds whose height is the same the height of a sitting vulture are competing with each other to actually choose and pick garbage. So the book looks at these critical issues, and then education, because if it is going to be a citizen-centric view of the city, then we have to start about thinking about the lowest section of society and how they can thrive. How is it that a migrant-friendly city can be planned? How can I give that migrant's child a good shot at life rather than be reduced to living in a slum without access to a school? So we looked at garbage and how is it that we can get people to segregate garbage at home. So you see that video talks about ab kachre sink bhi banenge paise, is while government has started saying start sukha kuda alag, gila kuda alag, it's still not happening. So the premise of the book is invert the problem into an opportunity. We are going to start paying people to segregate garbage at home. Instead of you paying the kachra wala, now the kachra wala will come and say, Mrs. Malhotra, Mr. Malhotra, kachra alag करके देंगे आप, तो मैं आपको 250 रुपए दूंगा. So
Wonderful.
using measurement, how much garbage does each family generate, telling you your accuracy of segregation, telling you relative to your peers. So at the end of the month on your mobile phone, you actually get a statement which will say, Mr. Chauhan, you are in the bottom 20% of your colony. Other people in your colony not only produce less garbage, they also segregate it better. Without any prejudice to you, we have some good advice to you, which will help you earn more money. If you do these 3 convenient things, and we will help you in this manner, you can actually help the community by doing this, and also earn so much. Alternatively, Mr. Pinaki, you have done extremely well. You are in the top 5%, and Airtel wishes to give you a 20% discount on the bill, and Shoppers Stop is willing to do X, Y, and Z for you. And we are also wanting to give you some kind of commendation certificate. What it does is it changes the narrative of citizenship. It brings in what is called an exalted, inspired citizenship to our country. So we are using money, technology, and individual communication through the mobile phone, which is a smart technology, which does not touch egos anywhere because it's individual. पिनाकी को चौहान के बारे में नहीं बताएंगे, चौहान को पिनाकी के बारे में नहीं बताएंगे. No egos. Individually focused communication connected with money, and all of us will learn, and the median of citizenship will rise, and that is how together we will solve the problems of our cities. So we often hear, log aisa kyun nahi karte, log waisa kyun nahi karte. The ecosystem is not wired for transformation. So here is the book of ideas, which is full of ecosystem-based solutions to solve the problems of our country. So I can go on speaking, but I think all of us must.
Amazing, sir. Amazing, sir. I think this is going to be the Bible of how we can improve our cities and our culture and ourselves. And officially, sir, we the speakers and the listeners, we want to clap for you, sir. Well done, sir.
Thank
and
you.
I congratulate you. This author from IIT Kharagpur is going to change the ways we're going to live and the way we're going to treat our garbage. So this is something I think the 8 views are which he has offered us. Everyone must read. Everyone must not just read but abide by it. I always insist that good books, good words, we all speak, but we don't abide by it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Architect Chauhan, sir, for this wonderful. I shall come back to you with questions. I'm going next to Mr. A.K. Jain. Jain Saab he worked as a commissioner planning in DDA, and
Yes.
is a member of the committee of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, DDA. He worked as a member of UN Habitat. Jan sir, welcome aboard. And you have written a fantastic book, and the platform is all yours, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me compliment the Smart Habitat Foundation and the ASSOCHAM for bringing together the eminent architects and thinkers in the profession. And this is a very good topic which they have selected today. And I am going to talk about tall buildings and vertical urbanism. This is something very important because I find that there is some kind of fixation, some kind of obsession that we have to be low rise, we have to be we have to be less dense, and no crowding should happen. So basically, the book has been written after making very extensive studies at this site in various countries, and it has 12 chapters. It has more than 210 pages, and it covers everything. The evolution of the tall buildings, why they have come up, what is vertical urbanism, what are the zoning regulations which are necessary for tall buildings, engineering of structures, construction technology, and all these kind of things like mechanical and electrical services, etc. So what is the context is urbanization. Urbanization in India is synonymous with socio-economic development and physical transformation. And growth of India's urban population, which is only 32% as per 2011 census, is one of the lowest in the world. In many developing countries, including China or Mexico, the urban population is between 50 to 70%. We are only 32%. But at the same time, it is very massive with 377 million in 2011, and it has its own problems. It is projected to be to the order of 600 million in 2031. That means only after 10, 11 years after today. So the urbanization has been contributing 70% of the GDP and 60% of the jobs. So from that economic point of view also, it is a very important aspect of development of the country. The construction sector itself contributes 8.2% of the GDP and creates about 11 to 12% of the jobs. But the Planning Commission in a recent study also warns that the living standard is going to drastically change, and the per capita residential space, which is hardly 6 square meter per capita, is going to multiply by 6 times, about 35 square meters per capita, and commercial space, which is only 0.7 square meter, it will go again by about 7 times. That means about 6 square meter per capita. And the total built up space, what we have today in the entire urban India, will have to be added by 2.5 times. That means only 40% of the built space is existing today. So there is going to be massive construction, massive urbanization. The urban paradox in India in this context is that we have very low densities, about 100 persons per hectare at the city level, and the very low FAR, floor area ratio, which is normally between 100 and 200, but the average is 100 because many buildings are not constructed, and a lot of space, about 50% of the space goes into these internal streets, internal parts, etc. And it means that there are long distances for people to travel, and people working in Mumbai are coming as far as Nasik and Pune, and in Delhi we are having people coming from the NCR like Aligarh and Meerut every day for work. And it is also the hallmark of urbanization in India is very deficient transport and infrastructure services. And we have been following more or less a single-use zoning. That means loss of jobs. If you are an architect or a doctor or a small industrialist, you cannot work from home. So this is something very important for India, that we have to work out our own zoning regulations, and we have to reduce the high consumption of land, natural resources fossil fuels and energy. If we are serious about climate change, the floods which are occurring every monsoon, and urban heat syndrome. So basically the myth of density is that we are very dense people. This is all, I think, confused with the massive urbanization. It is not true that we have very high densities. For example, Delhi has about 94 persons per hectare, or 9340 persons per square kilometer. Mumbai has about 27,000 persons per square kilometer, and Dharavi has 80,000 persons per hectare. Likewise, Chennai and Bangalore, etc., are having similar densities of around 25,000 persons per hectare per square kilometer. But if you compare with other countries like Barcelona, it is 53,000 persons per square kilometer. Manhattan and Paris about 26,000, and Cairo, Manila, and Tokyo about 40,000. And London daytime working density is 1,15,400 persons per square kilometer. So this is totally a myth that we are living in a very, very high density pattern. In fact, a lot of suburbanization has taken place in the name of satellite towns, decentralization, etc., and which are adding to the fuel costs, the transportation distances, infrastructure costs, etc. Anyway, these are the morphological patterns of Indian cities: Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, and Bangalore, which again shows there is a deficiency of the open spaces, especially in the old cities, very narrow streets, lack of parks and playgrounds, etc. This is a common phenomenon in the cities. So what are the policy imperatives? We have the National Commission for Urbanization. Charles Correa headed this commission 1988. Then we have Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change 2014. Then we had this Sustainable Development Goals 2015 by the United Nations, and we have the National Urbanization Policy of the Government of India 2018. And all these commissions advocate some basic parameters and principles of urbanization. The first is that it should be compact and dense development. We should focus more on the brownfield development rather than going for greenfield development. Transit-oriented development should happen. Then adopt the concepts of walk to work, public transport, and multimodal connectivity rather than depending too much on the private cars and private vehicles. Then we should go for a higher degree of mixed land use and work from home, which we have realized during this COVID pandemic that it is possible to work from home and reduce traveling to long distances just for going to work and coming back to home. And the per capita space in a city for transport and parking and social infrastructure and greens should be 10 square meter each. For example, transport and parking, it should provide 10 square meter each. If the population is say 1 lakh, 10 lakh square meter should be available for transport parking. Likewise, social infrastructure, that means schools, police stations, or medical help, etc., and greens, parks, and playgrounds. So these are some of the basic parameters which we have to consider. Then we are always talking about sustainable development, but sustainable development starts with very efficient and very compact development of land. And as I said, that we have about 100 density of 100 DUs per hectare in our cities. This is the net density. If we increase it by 200 persons per hectare, we will reduce the consumption of land by half. The site footprint will be 25%, which may be 35% now. Envelope area of the buildings will reduce from 70% to 35%, and the land cost per dwelling unit will also become half, 50 lakh to 25 lakh. That means it can be affordable housing. So this is something which we have to consider, and there can be various building forms. For example, separate houses or terrace houses or the block of flats all together, maybe in a multi-story building, maybe in a high-rise building. And this shows what is the site area required, envelope surface area, the energy required, construction cost, etc. And it favors that if we go for compact and vertical development, or what compact and dense development, we are going to save a lot of resources. This means that the form can be something like this. Of course, we have to ensure that at least 1/3 of the land is reserved for greens. Then this is a picture from Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, Geneva, and they have said that as far as planning and architecture is concerned, we have to focus upon 4 optimum factors. One is the density, land use, connectivity, and accessibility. Accessibility to the parks or social facilities, health, etc. So this gives an optimum pattern that we reduce the pollution, we reduce the distances, we reduce the consumption of fossil fuels. So this is something very important for us to consider.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is it all? Is the slides over?
No, something went wrong, I think.
And we can see the book review, sir. The slide shows the book review. The last slide, I think.
Yeah. So basically, we have to focus on brownfield development, and this is an example from Tokyo, real life example, where 2-story buildings were converted into 8 and 10-story buildings, with leaving 1/3 of the area for wider streets, etc. And this was taken up as a joint development. So this is a possibility which should be explored, which can be done. We have to have dedicated carriageways for the buses, for the cycles, for the pedestrians, and the retrofitting of the roads is very important. Then we have to go for transit-oriented development with a higher FAR of 400 and building footprint to be reduced to only 20%. And this is an example which DDA took up with the help of private architects. And this is East Delhi transit-oriented development. So this is another example where we have many unauthorized colonies, urban villages, and old settlements which have all these fragmented properties, small properties, which can be combined together and which can be combined and converted into 8-story or 12-story buildings with organized and unified open spaces and other infrastructure. So this is the example of work from home, that we have to understand that work from home is a new norm, new reality, which we have to take care. And we have to, when we talk about multi-story buildings or any development, it has to have a mixed land use, not single use only. So this is the definition of tall building, which has been taken from Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat. As everyone knows, the low-rise buildings are up to 15-meter height, and if it is still 17.5 meter, then the mid-height buildings are up to 14-story, normally about 30-meter height or so, and then 14-story or more, that means 50 meter and above, is considered tall building. Like this, there are super tall buildings and mega tall buildings. And these are the 10 highest buildings, or tallest buildings of the world. The first one is Burj Khalifa in Dubai. I think most of us have seen this building. Then when we talk about the tall buildings, as a professional, we have also to understand what are the negative points, what are the risks involved. The unit cost index multiplies as we go higher. After 15 meters, it may go up to 5 times the cost of construction. And then the frequency of crimes and fire risk also goes very high. after 15 floors. And likewise, the income group profile and building is basically high-rise buildings are very costly and the space is very expensive. So it is basically serving to the high income group and super HIG. So we have to take care how we mandate the percentage of housing into multi-story building or high-rise building for EWS LIG, which are subsidized or cross-subsidized. Then we have to focus on mechanical and electrical services of a skyscraper, including ecology, including user satisfaction, including all these safety considerations, environment, and internal. And the structural design requires shorting of frames by diagonal bracing. It's a very common practice, but the new innovative practice now, which is quite common, is cube structure. Average steel consumed in a multi-story building is 244 kilogram per square meter, which is reduced to 48, almost half, by this kind of technology, and it is being used in the building. For example, Sears building in Chicago is using this. Then we have not to give up the ecology and vertical planting and make it integral to the multi-story buildings. And this is the last slide, that it has not to be a superfluous kind of, when we talk about all buildings, to hide the slums and multiple publicity, but it has to be a genuine urban form, urban design, and integrated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jan Saab. Your experience of lifetime, you brought this into the compilation of this book, and I'm sure we all are going to benefit. And as I see that there is so much of research and so much of experience behind the whole thing, and thank you for coming on this platform and educating us. We, the panelists and the people on board, thank you profusely for this, sir. I shall come back to you, sir, for questions. I'm proceeding next. I want to see the face of the man of the moment, Mr. Professor Sangeet Shah. Is he online?
Yeah.
Professor Shah is online?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, sir. Welcome aboard, sir.
Yes.
Welcome aboard, sir.
Yeah.
Friends, I'm going to introduce you the man on the move. Not because he's always on the move, but also because he's making the whole country move. He is a man who designed airports, metros, railway stations, transit-oriental developments, intermodal hubs, and sustainable walkable things. You are a man on the move, sir, and thank you very much for this grand opportunity and for being here. And Professor Sangeet Shah is a renowned author and academician, educationist, and serves as the chairman of the Smart Habitat Foundation. This whole seminar, this whole webinar is because of him. Today, I'm privileged to say that we are going to also talk about his book, the new book, which is going to talk about. And over to you, sir. We'd like to hear your fantastic words and distinguished words about your book, sir. Sangeet, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you, great. I'm really honored to sharing my thought, but I must appreciate the type of authors like Gurmeet-ji and Ashok Jain-ji has, been writing books. Is something which is something it cannot be done, and I'm speaking with a person who's moderating. He is also a big author. So, it's like an author talking to an author. It becomes very, very different. But I would rather say, when I started looking at this, which is like redefining Indian sustainable smart cities, and it's like it's a complete travel of the human settlement, and it's like cities are the manifestation of human settlement, and it's like functionality, the function, probably creating more of innovation as we grow. We get technology coming into the necessities, the invention, and how the necessity means the requirement-based things transforms our cities. Probably this has I have gone through in my book a process of journey of the various eras of civilization. Probably the
Wonderful.
recognized civilization is the oldest, is the Indus Valley civilization in this part of the
Yeah.
subcontinent. And once you go through that and then processing, traveling through the various other eras of civilization around the globe and understand through the Renaissance period, to the Industrial Revolution, to other periods of Greek and Roman architecture, probably how the large and the various other things were made through in the global flavor. And then lately I touched upon in the book, you know, going through the various civilizations and other things put together, what is happening for the last now about 100 years after we got independence, you know. And when we looked at all these things, then probably it looks as if, we have great heritage. I just call it because my book is labeled as redefining Indian smart and sustainable. So first we need
Wow.
to see that we have the great heritage. We need to understand how the Indian cities behave, what climatical conditions. It has to respond to the many, many more things put together into the terrain, into the natural resources, and all that put together into the book, unless and until I have an agenda to understand the various elements of applied architecture put together into the city planning, then I'll only be able to create a city which is honestly becomes livable. Why I say that we have a hot and wet climate, hot and wet climate mostly, and there we are largest of the heritage fall into maybe you say Gujarat or you say Rajasthan, you other. So I studied all these cities like Jaipur, Chandigarh, New Delhi, all that human settlement which was done like Shahjahanabad, city like complete old Jaipur. What is those elements which are to be addressed in terms of the city planning? Maybe I talk in terms of like Mr. Jain has said that today is the time when you go high rise, and I appreciate that, but I see my like a hot climate where I need more of mutual shading. I need more of courtyard planning. I need more other things together where I cut the sun, my clear sun in this part of the city, part of the country needs to be absolutely protected. So how do I see that habitat? It's like cities are shelters. It's not food. It is not practically. I say that ना कपड़ा है, ना ये रोटी है, ये रहने का साधन है. How do you create that habitat which is near to the nature, and I protect myself, and then I study daily the charcoal city. I say PM 2.5, as my friend Gunmeet has very rightly said, 2.5, 10, going to 400, and I am a passive smoker. I take 50 cigarettes a day. How do you address these issues where all these elements are taken as, I would say that my book complements both the books put together, and let's see that how we create a sustainable architecture, because it is from Gunmi's book, it is the awareness, it is the social awareness, it is the understanding the various, not these are, I was just saying that his points are not 8 points agenda. It is 8 million points which he has addressed into the book. And if I am able to do, so garbage is one of the greatest problem. My 12% of my pollution in the city is because of the garbage. And then the road dust. Road dust is about an 8 to 10% is from the road dust which is there. How do you see that these parameters are addressed? Then you have already said, and this is in the book, how
how do you see that the safety is taken place? How do you make your cities walkable? How do you make your cities cyclable? And that things, in case I'm able to address, I make my safe cities. Right? Gurmeet ji has said, how many accidents take place because our system doesn't work. So these are the things which has been highlighted in the book, and then there are certain mitigations. We given the proposal, how cannot walkable, how cannot this can be made cyclable, how we can do other places which and then when we talk about mega cities which have no, practically there are no space, how to dig out space, how do you transform layers into architecture, and how you create layers in the mega cities. Say like what is happening today, our layers are shadowing the city. See, I'm adding one layer as a flyover, then I add another layer as a metro, then I add another layer as a rapid metro, then I again put another layer which is like walkable foot over bridge. So if you go to Gurgaon, or you see what is the newest trends of architecture in the mega development, you see nothing but an eyesore, a shaded cityscape, which is shadowing the city, and I get air pollution, I get water pollution, I get sound pollution. So that is what is happening to our large cities, which are practically layering in a mushroom way, and that has been touched in the book. And parameters, in case we are able to create, then I studied. I studied London, Paris, Barcelona, how those cities are walkable cities, how they are cyclable cities. In case we are able to transform our cities as walkable cities, and I'll tell you, we also had an opportunity to do the master planning and giving vision 2057 to a private town, which is Jamshedpur city, which is 64 square kilometers of a city, where it's an industrial town where 20 million tons of steel comes and 20 million tons raw material comes, and the final product goes. It's industrial town. Can you make that as a green town? That is what we've done. It's like, how do you see that all your negative spaces within the city are amalgamated, and you create a green network around all the neighborhood, and you make it walkable. So these are some of the visions which we tried, that it is not, as Gurmeet ji and Jain sir has said, it is not impossible. It is only how you practically shape out. How do you make your mind? It's change of mindset. It's today is the time that we have to shift our mindset, but probably one thing which is a must for us, that we are not the global. We have not to copy, imitate the global world. What they do is the best, because their climatical condition, our climatical condition, our social economic conditions, everything in this part of subcontinent is absolutely different than the European world. So we need to have our own data. We need to have our own understanding. I adore Chandigarh. Sangeet ji, it's an very inspiring town, which is a sustainable town, and which is based on Indian culture and society and the habitat which probably will look for. So this is what has been, I studied Chandigarh, Jaipur, all these Indian cities in this book, so that we understand from the great heritage. Today we talk about water conservation, but we've forgotten where we are putting all our rainwater, which is connected with the sewage water, and ultimately Yamuna, it gets a dirty water. How do you see that you create that sort of water channelizing, creating? Those were the step wells, those were the bowlies, those were the lakes, those were the sewage ponds which we created 200, 300, 500 years back, but the cities were sustainable. Now, what is happening today is there is a fight between Punjab and Haryana who will get more water from Yamuna, but we are forgetting that we have sufficient water, which is like, I would say, rainwater, which I conserve, that will be more than sufficient for any person to be absolutely in absolutely sustainable manner. So I just, today, because the cities are growing, cities have a large perspective, intermodality is one of the components because we travel. Today is happening is that we travel not by one mode, we travel by multiple modes. One person coming to an office, he has to start from his residence on a mode to reach to the metro, and then to metro, another metro, to a three metro chain of metro, come to the station, then again take another mode, and then come to office. So intermodality is today essential. And how do you create that intermodality works along with vocability? And vocability becomes, why I say cyclability, that once I'm able to create that sort of infrastructure, run from metro station, I can really pick up a bike and come to my office or go back to my residence. That is what is happening around in the other, walkable and cyclable cities. So these are certain things which have been taken into consideration. Even I have talked about the smart cities like Dulera, like Masdar, and then also in this book I talked about a city in Gift City, which is in. So what we are doing as smart cities, and what is sustainable city, and what is an Indian city, needs to have an interface where I say that in case I am able to create that sort of a sustainable, in terms of planning, in terms of human settlement, I don't think that I'll be needing so much of an IT, so much of awareness in terms of putting so many cameras, in case I create the transparency in the planning norms, in creating that sort of a city, which is absolutely touched to my heart. I say, yes, it has a belongingness to the people and the place. And then I proudly say, once I make a city which is with my heart and soul put together, and for the people and for the place, I don't think that people will not respect that city because it has a touch. Emotional touch is very important. Religious touch is very important. Sentiments in the city needs to be generated not only on the commercial angle, but on the multiple angles which I adore. In case somebody says only on the commercial angle तेरा चलान हो जाएगा, maybe मैं सुधरूंगा नहीं. लेकिन if I am religiously bound into a flavor of understanding, I would say that those parameters will make the city honestly sustainable, and I would rather protect my city. When I go around में देखता हूँ boundary wall के ऊपर, everybody thinks that this is the toilet, and people just come and piss around on the boundary wall. So not what we have done is we have started putting, like big plates or styles with gods, so that when somebody sees God on the wall, a painting, godly painting on the wall, he will not use it, and he will not do that sort of a, misuse onto the streets. So this is very, very important, that this program would be addressed into a practicality, shaping an option for the people to understand. See, we were talking about segregation of garbage. What happens when the segregated garbage is thrown into the garbage bin? Again, another person comes. He starts putting things together, and he start removing aluminium. He start removing other things, and everything is removed. And mind it, I did one incineration plant, garbage incineration plant, 35 years back in Wazirabad. That was meant that we incinerate the garbage and produce energy. But it could not work because our garbage didn't have that sort of a of a metal or aluminum where it can burn because it has already been picked by the garbage picker. So these aspects are to be seen how the technology which the Western world can be shaped here because our culture, our diversification, the poverty lines, other things are absolutely different. I cannot control my things on the road. So probably I look into all these things together in the book with the mitigation so that we do what is in our capacity to do with such type of a diversified population, a large population where economics is the biggest role to play. A person who is even not getting a grub, he needs survival, and he is getting his surviving from the garbage. How do you control all these aspects put together with technology so that we create redefining, that is what I say, redefining Indian sustainable cities tomorrow. So perhaps that
Wonderful, sir.
glad that and lastly, I just put it this, I just show you Sangeet
Yes, sir.
that is what is life, life is nature, and everything probably is in nature. In case I understand nature and I start adoring nature, then I eat nature, I sit with nature, I dine with nature, and I die with nature. That probably is to be looked after. And let's make our life so simplistic. Dynamism will come with simplicity and not with complexity. More and more, I would say, I will just conclude, Sangeet, that I don't want that we are nomadic, but I do not wish that I also become robotic. So
Yeah, well,
it's like I'm coming from robotic to nomadic, but nomadic is a word where I am static. When I'm static, I am absolutely with the nature. But when I start moving, I am now today moving in a direction which is absolutely robotic. And once it's robotic, I do not know. मैं किसी 5 स्टार होटल में जाता हूँ, वो पता नहीं समझ जाता कौन सा दबाना है, कौन सा नहीं दबाना है. Is technology to an extent is a boon. After that, it becomes a curse. And let's see that we optimize the use of technology in a humanistic way so the human values are not lost by virtue of technology. So thank you indeed. It's my pleasure to share. And I hope that this forum, which has been created by all of us, you may call it as a Smart Habitat Foundation, ASSOCHAM, GEM, the intention has always been there. So let's see that collectively we can create a nation. And as has been rightly said by Gunmeet ji, that an architect can vision out and make the city. Architect is a visionary. Maybe I am not saying that engineers are not visionary. Architect is a multiple, person who has all the dimensions of understanding. You call it socio-economic, you call it vision in terms of build form, or he is the one. I sometimes even say that God has created this universe, and where does God live? God lives within his universe. He lives within his creation, and similarly, a architect is godly, a miniature God. He creates a building. When does he live? He lives within his building, and once he lives within his building, he will put his soul into the building. And once the architect has put soul into his building, it means building is not a mass of brick and concrete, but it is a living organism. It breathes. It's embodied nature. So in case we create that sort of a holistic architecture, we speak of nature as one of the major ingredients, our buildings will be sustainable. Nevertheless, once I do the passive ways of architecture, ways is not at all required. No need for putting all those sensors and other automations in case I place my building in terms of respecting the solar, respecting the natural resources, respecting my people and what they want. And that today we are making the cities for the classroom for the transport to move. Let's create a cities where human can move and we can possibly live in. Thank you, Sangeet. Over to
Wonderful,
you.
sir.
And
Wonderful, sir. I think I was so mesmerized with your talk, sir. I forgot that I'm the moderator, sir. For everybody's behalf on this panel and the people who are listening, sir, I want to clap for you, sir.
thank you.
Sir, people like you and people like Mr. Chauhan, Gurpreet Singh Chauhan, people like Mr. Jam, sir, you are the visionaries and teachers who, out of your experience, have bought in these trustees, these books, your experience and all your knowledge, and you offer to us. We are blessed, sir. और आप जैसे जो गुरु हैं उनको प्रणाम करते हैं सर हम. Sir, there's a fantastic video, I believe, which you have made about your book, sir. I would like the organizers to play that quickly, if that is available. Is it on? Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think it was a pleasure seeing architects and planners trying to record their knowledge, sir. And I think the more we are into practice, the more we want to convey and we want to teach. So a teacher is not the person who is actually going to the colleges and being there. A teacher is a person who wants to put it on record for the future, for reference. So, sir, I think these three books which we have, unfolded today, is something which the future generations is going to really appreciate, and we thank you all, sir. Uh, I'm going to shift the focus slightly to another star in the galaxy. I'm going to speak to you, present to you, friends, Mr. Architect Bobby Mukherjee. Architect Bobby Mukherjee is a city planner, and he's from Mumbai, the first Indian interior architect to be on the panel of the top 5-star hotel brands. And guys, when I see his profile, I mean, there is hardly anything which he has not touched. He's the designer of all the brand hotels, like Mr. Chiranjeev Shah. We saw that he's like a brand ambassador of all the things of airports and metros and things which are on the move. And architect Bobby Mukherjee is somebody who's touched the hearts of Hyatt and Marriott and Carlston, Hard Rock Cafe, Taj Resorts, Tree, etc., etc. And he's given his advice, he's given his expertise to all the topmost builders, maybe be it Raheja, Sahara Group, DLF, Orbit, etc., etc. Amazing. I mean, such versatile biodata of somebody is the person is there on board with us. Architect Bobby Mukherjee, I welcome you aboard. And can I see you? Is Mr. Architect Bobby online?
Yes, I am.
How are you, sir? Welcome aboard, sir.
Hi. How are you? Very well, thank you.
Yeah. I was just seeing your profile, Babaji, and I read it, and I particularly wanted you to speak to us and show the thousands of people who are hearing us and seeing us about your Ambi Valley city, because we talking about sustainable cities. We are talking about the townships which are livable. Tell us, sir, how your Ambi Valley city was the example you want to quote for this forum. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, hi. Do you have the video and the images that we sent to you?
Absolutely. Organizers?
So I think if they show that first, then I shall speak after that.
Right, sir. On board.
Yeah. See, this was a design competition that had won many years in the year 99, and it took around 4 or 5 years to plan this, and the total land area is 10,000 acres of
Wow.
Of land space. And I can proudly say that there have not been very many such projects built in India since independence. And in this project, we could manage to do quite a bit, is because of it being a private promoter, Sahara Group, that had floated this project. This location was actually in the middle of nowhere. It was a series of hills with valleys. It was earlier called Ambi Valley Sahara Lake City. That was the original name of the city, and they changed it to a more shorter name. This city, as you can see these images, this is the 10,000 acres of the plans that we had done then. The project started getting executed in around 2003 onwards. There were minor developments that were already existing earlier on that land, but that was very minimal. So we planned this whole city, and we realized that there were quite a few nice valleys that were available there. And the big blue patches that you see, they are lakes that I created by putting dams in them. And the first lake that came up was a 1.5 kilometer long lake. And then there were two smaller lakes that we created on a slightly higher level, again in valleys. After the dams were created, we realized that in just 4 days of rains, of monsoon. This space is not very far from Bombay. It's close to Khandala, so in less than 2 hours from Bombay, you are able to reach there. In 4 days of rains, these lakes completely got filled up, and till now, it's become a perfectly, recycling environment that gives enough water and irrigation to this entire land. The entire place, from being an arid zone, has become into this lush green environment. I remember walking in this bottom of these lakes, where we felled the trees in there to create all the infrastructure around. And right after these lakes formed, they were able to keep the city green throughout the year. The main lake would the levels would drop down by around 10 feet in every year, but because of the smaller lakes that we had created in the upper level, they kept on pumping in water into this place and into the main lake. So the main lake's level was constantly maintained. Now, I think around close to $2 billion was around spent in making all the infrastructure around, and it's been now nearly 15 years, and I think it's going to be, and it's growing slowly, organically, as per our master plan. All the roads were laid out. Several residents have moved in, but the differentiator between this and the rest of the other cities in India is that the quality of life in the city is amazing, where it's low density. It's more, you feel you're in a resort all the time, and it's low rise buildings, not more than 2-3 stories, enough greenery. Even the FAR or the FSI is capped at 0.25, so the density is kept controlled. We created all these, that's the dam, and there's a road on the dam with these sail-like features, we project lighting onto that. So the smallest details, to make the city be a fun spot to hang out and visit were taken into account. Lots of fun activities were brought in, from skydiving to water sports to quad biking, adventure sports. A lot of big weddings take place here. Initially, it was planned to be like a second home, but now I see more and more residents have permanently moved in, and they work out of there. There's one big, massive mansion that's come up there where the chairman, along with his entire staff and all, have moved in, and they run their businesses sitting out of this location and being in this scenic environment. All these images that you see that look so green right now, they were not green like this earlier. Is because of the creation of the lakes that we are able to maintain this in this kind of soft, lush greenery throughout the year. More images of the city as it's growing slowly. The view seen from the balconies of the various villas and houses that have come up. We built a small airport there as well that caters to helicopters and smaller aircrafts. We did not get permission for a longer runway to get in. Sorry. These are the airport infrastructure, the small airport there. Smaller houses coming up. We did not do some of the detailed micro planning. Then later on, several other architects came in and they did some of the smaller, individual villas and buildings. This is how the city is evolving now. That's the main lake. We create a small island, a natural island emerged at the center of the lake, which we're making into like a nightclub facility, which will be like the focus of the entire township. It has its own golf course as well. You know, this is another big wedding facility that we're planning there. There is a large school that's also come into this area, into this township. Smaller lakes attached to the golf course. It has a PGA golf course, which was India's first PGA golf course. A lot of sports, adventure sports is big. A lot of car companies, they do their car launches here, and you know, they have their weekend, you know, car drives with, you know, supercars, and like people like, you know, even Range Rover and stuff, they do their special events over here because of the quality of the environment that we've created here. That's the island that emerged at the center, and we want to put in this nightclub with these, you know, beacon lights jutting out from the center and, you know, focusing onto the sky. You know, it's in the lake, so there's some special lighting effects on this island as well. Along the edge of the lake, there's lighting within the water, so the water starts glowing, and the lake looks like it's floating, and the island looks like it's floating. This is half built as of now. Shows the roads and the landscaping along the roads. There's several, you know, these are log houses that have come up using some Australian technology. We did not plan this part, but an Australian company came in and they did the microplan of this one settlement of around 20 acres, and they have a series of these log houses. Lakeside villas that have come up already. In the monsoons, it's absolutely beautiful because the, you know, the mists are, it's always misty throughout those 3 or 4 months, and the clouds, they go through one's house. Several types of villas planned in this location. These would be built by the promoters, but a large chunk of the villas have been privately built by the people who bought the land there to build their own houses. Some people bought up to 11 plots, 12 plots, and created massive settlements for themselves and their family and even staff. As you can see that, you know, this city has been, you know, naturally slowly evolving through, and we foresee that over the next it'll probably reach its peak over the next 40 or 50 years. And what's going to be a differentiator is that, you know, the fact that we were able to build this out of nothing. These were dry, arid lands, and we transformed it into a complete oasis. It's perhaps considered to be one of India's most beautiful urban developments. And I would like to use this as an example of what can actually happen, you know, to the rest of the country. There's so much of land available which are completely unutilized, and which are arid without any destruction to nature, and we create all this. So what I would like to tell, my students and for future generations that, here is a possibility to create something out of nothing. But the big differentiator here was that after I got this project and did all that, I thought that I would be doing many such projects in the country. I came back from Los Angeles after winning this competition, got heaps of work in India, and I didn't go back. I did reach the final rounds of, making of Ranchi as well as Naya Raipur, but these projects towards the end ran into some problem. Either a scam happened or there were issues with land acquisition or the finances available for the land acquisition. So I was able to execute this large project is thanks to, having a client like, Chairman Subrata Roy, who allowed this to happen. He took the plunge, he bought this insane amount of land, which was acquired over a large period of time. Yeah, and when we started the project, the land was slightly smaller than when we finished the project. So things like creating lakes, creating golf courses, creating large-scale, developments, investing heavily in landscaping, in creating your own private airport. All this, happened, in a jiffy, is thanks to a client like him, where decisions were made overnight. For example, one night we were talking about the dam, to come up. All he did was ask me, Bobby, how much will it cost? So, the engineers came up with a figure of, 50 crores in those days, like they did the calculation, and they said, okay, so, and then we will organize those funds to create that in a short time. So decision happened overnight. Hence, you see instantaneous results and you get instantaneous gratification, something that you enjoy in your own lifetime. Then, doing stuff. So somewhere down the line, many such projects can be created throughout India if we get the support of the government and the bureaucracy to get all this done. All like if you see our great cities of Bombay and Delhi, the good parts of both these cities are invariably were created by the Britishers. The parts which we created, which is in Bombay's Andheri onwards up to Borivali, it's a complete mess. So there's something that they did right, and the other thing I noticed is also that the government regulation in terms of enforcing handling the cities the right way. In the prime areas in all these cities, our existing cities, they're always cleaner, they're always more organized, there's no encroachments, the sidewalks are actually available for walking, But, as you move away from the prime areas, the city becomes, all those strict enforcement goes down the drain. So all that can also be executed if the enforcement agencies did their job right. Our living conditions would be much better. There would be no unnecessary parking and making the roads, narrow. In Bombay, some of the main thoroughfares are organized by are encroached by hawkers or someone selling shoes and slippers and vegetables, and a 3-lane becomes into a 1-lane, holding the entire city to ransom. These are not even these are things which even architects don't have a role to play, urban planners have a role to play, and cities can be improved. Now here in Ambi Valley, everything is perfect because the governing authority themselves is a private agency that completely controls every square inch of that land, of the land mass over there. Hence, you have something that is so amazing and livable and like a utopian kind of an environment, which I think a lot of this is possible throughout the country in different corners of the country.
This is amazing, sir. I mean, this was an eye-opener. I wish all of us could do one Ambi Valley in our lifetime, Bobby. This was something fantastic which we saw. And I think so. Ultimately, it's the client, it's the governance, is the government, is the political will which makes the projects of that nature. So whether it's a big Ambe Valley, or whether it's a small town or township or housing colony, it's the will, it's the policies, it's the philosophies. I think what is important is the combined ideologies of a good livable cities, a livable place for the human being to survive. That makes fantastic architecture. That was marvelous, Bobby. I hope.
Sangeet, is one more thing I want to
Yes, sir.
say that
Sir.
many of the architects here will agree to, is the fact that, this was a design competition. There were around 10 international designers. I was the only Indian in the thing, but I had an American partner in this project. And whoever won the project, we made a massive amount of work, made amazing designs, and I got the project hands down. But after that, there was no question of L1 or some some low fee that had to be paid, and so if I got the fee to do this project, what I deserved, the kind of man hours that I put into this, I put in like 3-4 years of my life, into this project, and
Super.
we were well compensated for all the hard work and all the man hours that went into designing this. The problem I face with in other government projects is that it's not like I did not bid. I did bid for a couple of them. Perhaps the designs were good, but ultimately the project went to an L1 whose fee was perhaps 1/5 of ours. Now, how do you compete against? So you will end up getting rubbish at the cost of you cannot create a superior intellectual product without putting in effort and man hours and skill and great minds working on it. Otherwise it'll turn out like one of those common distant suburbs that we have in our city, in our big cities, which has no soul, no atmosphere, no life. It's just like looks like those communist housing, just blocks one after the other, grid plan, and that's it. You just basically just about survive there. There's no life. So somewhere down the line, unless the country wakes up, why do you have a nice city like Chandigarh? Because the government then decided to call the world's greatest architect to design it. There was no L1. He didn't not take anyone. He just went to the best guy in doing this job. And you have a city that even till now is considered one of the most livable cities in the entire country.
Yeah.
Why is Central Delhi? Why is Central Delhi considered to be the most beautiful city development in the entire country of India? And it's amongst the best of the world as well. That's one city you can proudly, showcase to, people visiting from around the world. It's something you can proudly show as being a great city, but you can't say the rest, can't say the same about, Bangalore or Chennai or rest of Bombay. We don't have that. Why? Because at that time, the British government chose Lutyens, the greatest architect at that time, to design it. And obviously you got something. So like that,
exactly, sir. This is what we are. So we are debating on these things. Yes.
So unless the best designers and architects and minds are put onto the job, the right job, will we get something like this? Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in this. We all trying. My friend Gurmeet's also trying hard. I see him to to try and improve his environment and make it. But we see the challenges that that architects like him and us and all we go through. We try and do it passionately. We want to do some good stuff for our country, but it's quite an uphill task. I'm sorry to sound negative, but I'm raising this in this forum. I'm raising this in this forum that hopefully someone will hear us and it'll reach the right ears.
I think
I'm sure, sir. I'm
the
sure.
next book has to be about how we need to we are architects better to get a better India. You know, it should
Maybe,
be
yes,
very,
you're right, sir.
very
Somebody
direct.
will write, sir. Yes, yes, somebody will write, sir. I will say thanks to Bobby for this magnificent
Look at, it's a
presentation. Uh,
very
Charanjit, sir.
very
Anji,
sensitive issue, and
yes, ji.
we'll definitely have one webinar on this so that it can be
Fan-
understood fully. You know,
Yes, sir.
over to you, Sangeet ji. You please
Yes, sir.
carry
Yes,
on
sir.
because you have another 4. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I have the galaxy of stars with me, and I'm trying to take time out of them. Bobby, it was fantastic, and if I
Thank
get the
you.
time, I shall be back to you for one more question. I am going
Okay.
to shift. We're talking about people who can talk and write. I'm going to ask Mr. Naresh Singh. Naresh sir, kaise ho ji? How are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you.
Naresh
Privilege.
ji is an editor of Glitz Architecture and Interiors magazine, and he's absolutely passionate about climate responsive design and energy efficient design, sustainability, vernacular designs. I think it's his passion for learning and understanding the design makes him a curious editor. I call him the choosy editor because he's not publishing that comes in his way. When I see his magazines, he's publishing something that which is worthy, and that what makes him apart from other editors. Reshji, you're fantastic. And over to you. I want to ask you your opinion quickly on this subject of smart cities, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. And in my views, basically, architecture and design has undergone many changes during the process of human civilization. The meaning has changed with the change in the social pattern. Today, when we are talking about citizen-centric, sustainable, smart cities, then the idea of the smart cities planning and the design must infuse the sense of belonging, which hardly we find in a smart city design today. And here I would like to definitely endorse the view of Professor Charanjit Singh Sasar, who has rightly pointed out this is what the one thing where the sense of belonging has to be developed with the smart city design. Generally, a smart city aims to improve the quality of urban services or reduce its cost. It stands out for its smart management, lifestyle, mobility, housing, as well as a smart economy. The main goal is to reconcile technological innovation with the economic, social, ecological challenges of the city of the tomorrow. Here, I feel, along with the advancement in technology and design, we must also adopt the new approach towards creating a meaningful, citizen-centric, sustainable, smart city that is not only sustainable in design and offer best of facilities, but also infuses a sense of belonging with the Indian culture. I repeat, also infuses a sense of belonging with the Indian culture. Otherwise, we are losing our connection with our traditional art and architecture. The ultimate motive is the quality of life, how to live better together while respecting our environment, heritage, tradition, and culture. This is what is my view on this, Sangeet ji.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Anything else?
Naresh,
Thank you.
this was wonderful and very nicely put in. Very succinctly talked about the things which we need to adopt, and very nicely. And of course, yeah, you are an editor of a magazine. You have to be succinct and very nicely spoken about to us. And
Thank you.
very well said. I'll also in the similar lines go to Mr. Vijay Kumar Nair. Nair sir, hello sir. Mr. Vijay Kumar Nair, hello sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes sir. Yes sir. I can hear you now. Yes sir. Nair Sahib is an editor-in-chief, publisher of CIA World. Hello, audio is disturbing.
Hello,
Audio is disturbing. Organizers.
hello.
Mr. Nair, your audio is disturbing. It's got some it's not audible, sir. Disturbance आ रही है.
I think there is some disturbance at Vijay Kumar ji's end.
I think हाँ अभी थोड़ा सा इसको mute कर दें. By the time you fix this issue, I would like to shift my focus to Mr. Hemant Sood. Hemant ji, how are you, sir? Hemant ji, Mr. Hemant Sood, how are you, sir? Yes, sir. Mr. Sood, I think you're also much into the lifestyle, into the interiors. You're cheering the triple ID, the sector of North Zone, and multifarious activities you do. You are teaching. You are into designing, and you are hosting a lot of award functions. Sir, I would seek your experience to know about your views on what exactly are we looking for in the smartness. I mean, I don't want to keep talking about smart cities. It's a broad-based theme which we have taken. All of us, we have been talking about things. Sir, tell me, what is that 2-3 elements which makes a happy living, which makes living easier, feasible, and of course smarter? I mean, what are the factors which you feel we should take, particularly in your aspect? You have designed so many interiors. How do you go inside the building and make things smarter? Let us get inside the building, sir. We have been talking about the environment, the mega to the smallness, sir, from the whole to the part. Let's come to the part. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sangeet. It's a pleasure to be here. Firstly, thank you to Professor Charanjit Shah. Thanks to you, I've been invited on this panel. Smart cities is not really my field of expertise, so to say, and but I would definitely like to give a few points after, of course, hearing from all the stalwarts on the panel. Thank you to the Smart Habitat Foundation and ASSOCHAM Gen for this webinar. And hi, Bobby. We joined in late, so thought I'd say hi to you. Okay, firstly, I just been a moderator for too many webinars for Triple ID, so can't help but doing a summary of whatever I've heard. Firstly, Gunmeet, amazing work on your book. Thank you so much for that. I think it's a wonderful effort to talk about waste and scrap and what can be done with it. And I loved one comment that you made, that disaster does not differentiate between rich and poor, city, village. We're all in it together. So that's definitely something that's of use to us. Thank you again, Mr. Jain. For me, since I'm not directly from the field, a lot of insight, especially about density and high rise, and it changed my thoughts a lot. I didn't know too much about it. Leave this webinar being a lot more educated on these two topics. Bobby, amazing work as always. We were on a webinar just a week ago, and but you're right about the fact that it's a utopian dream to get a project like Ambi Valley and a client like Mr. Roy, where you are able to start on a greenfield project, because most people are stuck with the old cities and having to do something with whatever already exists. And of course, I do agree with you about the L1 costings. You give out peanuts, you're going to get monkeys. That's definitely par for the course. And Professor Shah, of course, as always, an inspiration to hear you speak, especially about intermodality. That's been your specialty. I featured you in my magazine. And of course, you're talking about designing with the heart and the soul. That's been very inspirational. I did a webinar with you also less than a week ago, so really inspirational. So good afternoon to all. I'm here wearing 3 hats. I'm an interior designer myself. I'm also for the last 35 odd years. I'm also representing IIIT as the chairman for the Delhi chapter, and I'm also a publisher of a magazine for design. So that's 3 hats here. But again, out of the panelists who are here from the design field, I'm the only one who's not an architect. So I'm giving a disclaimer here. I'm not an architect. I'm not an engineer. I'm an interior designer only. Very happy to be one though. And Professor Shah in his last webinar and even briefly this time mentioned how an architect is like a god because he creates a building with his heart and puts his soul into it. But and I asked him in the webinar, what are interior designers then? And he said, well, we make the building, you also put some soul into it. So, well, I suppose we are some kind of lesser gods. I'll stay with that. So thank you for that description. And now going back to what Sangeet, you asked me about smart cities. I'm not going to talk. The eminent panelists have already spoken about what a smart city should be. I have only 2 concerns. One is that while I feel that what little work I've done with architects that I've worked with, cities need to be smarter, but for that the design and the architecture needs to be more responsible. And number 3, the people need to be more conscious. So I think more than or in addition to the planning and the urban design that takes place, it's the interior design that will also come into play. It is the people who will come into play. There are a lot of prototypes of smart cities that I've been reading about, which something's happening in Japan with Toyota, with the Danish studio Big is working on. And then, of course, there are cities which are planning even neighborhoods, smart neighborhoods, not the entire city, like Toronto with Sidewalk Labs. But of course, you experts already know enough about it, so I'm not going to talk about what is a smart city. I'm not an expert on that. But I feel that while we are talking about waste management, we're talking about infrastructure planning, we're talking about smart traffic and parking systems, electrical grids and everything. I feel that smart does not necessarily mean automation or AI only. It's not just artificial intelligence. It's not just automation. It's also a change in the mindset. It's a change how people look at the problem. How planners, architects, designers, authorities, even the general public approaches these issues. From the urban design point of view, I understand it means economic growth, it means density, it means zoning. We've heard the experts speak about this. But people tend to ignore the human angle. The people who live in the city and the people who move to cities and what they represent, what are their aspirations, what are their thoughts. A smart city can be a smart city only when it's self-aware. When the people in it are aware and they're ready to take on the burden that comes from being sustainable. Sustainability comes at a cost. We all know that. Are the people ready to pay it? That's what is going to decide whether the city will be smart or not. The people have to understand that there is a problem, there is an environmental and social issue that we are facing right now. And they also have to understand that if we have to start putting a plan in place to get it right, and if we don't, things can go downhill pretty fast. So it is these people, I feel, who are going to determine what direction the city is going to move in, and finally how smart it's going to become. And connected to that, Sangeet, you also mentioned about the macro and the micro level. Yes, urban designers, planners, architects do get to think and do things from a macro level. They see the larger picture. But as Mies van der Rohe said, God is in the details. As an interior designer, I tend to look at things at a micro level too. And that's where I'm always talking about. When you are talking about urban design, I'm talking about building design. That's one step down from from the macro to the micro. And building design is all about today smart buildings. We talk about smart cities, we talk about green buildings. Unfortunately, very little is talked about green interiors, which forms a subset. Like interiors is a subset of architecture today. Green interiors is a subset of green buildings. So we have the IGBC and we have so much being talked about green buildings, but not so much on green interiors. That's something I would like. Even representing Triple ID, I would like that to come into play somewhere. That somebody to take up this issue and talk about it. Because if each building is green, your city is not going to be smart. Because we're talking about building management systems, we're talking about building automation systems, we're talking about internet and the Internet of Things, as we call it now, where lighting, temperature, safety, security, everything in a building can be detected, can be controlled based on the detection and the data that's available to us. So sustainable interior design is what we need. And now we've also talked in certain webinars about, we had a LEED rating, now we're talking about the WELL rating, where the health of the building and its occupants has also become important, especially in the COVID situation. So I think that's what we need to do as designers, whether interior or urban, whether planners, builders, authorities together, is to work with within the limitations that we have and create something that's beautiful, that's socially, economically, environmentally responsible. And that's what my version of the smart city is. Thanks.
Amazing, absolutely. I think Hemant, you have really consolidated the whole webinar very beautifully, and you've given your inputs, which are fantastic. Thank you very much. I think now the Swagraha has come up by Griha, which are taking care of the interiors and small interiors also, and small houses also. So it's a good point. I'll request Mr. Shah to have this seminar especially for the green interiors. Over to Mr. Nair. Is he okay? Can we hear him? Is his audio okay? Organizers, Mr. Vijay Kumar Nair.
Is it okay?
Sir, your voice is not clear. Can you just speak up loudly?
I'm afraid Mr. Nair's the audio is not okay, and sir, we can hear you slightly, but your sound is no.
So we can't hear you.
I think we will request Mr. He has sent some PPT.
Yeah. Let us see the slides.
Let's see the slides.
You can you can give a brief of Mr. Nair.
Yes, sir. Hello. Yeah, Mr. Nair is an editor-in-chief and publisher of CIA World magazine, and it's published under the banner of Epic Media Private Limited. He has a vast experience, almost about 33 years in mainstream journalism and B2B magazines. He has worked in different sectors, and one of the very eminent persons to appreciate and follow. It's unfortunate that his audio is something wrong in it, but nevertheless, I think organizers, we can see his slides. He's talking about. Well, why don't you take him on phone, and if his audio can be corrected? No, it's not. Well, talking about smart cities. Next slide.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir, we can hear you, but there is a vast disturbance, sir. Mr. Nair, there's a big disturbance.
So I just need my slides.
Yes, sir. We are seeing your slides, sir. I think we'll get you back on the forum again. Can we run his slides, please? I think we can mute his audio and run the slides, please. Okay. Very nicely, he is trying to break the word smart, S-M-A-R-T. It means simple, manageable, affordable, resourceful, technologically savvy. Wow, fantastic. Next slide, please. Smart city planning. Yeah, governance, transport, water, solid waste management, storm water drainage, power, communication. This is what we all have been talking about. Next slide. Very wonderfully depicted in his slides. Smart governance is absolutely important. Transport is obviously Mr. Shah has been speaking about this. Next, please. These are the parameters which Mr. Nair would like to explain, but unfortunately, I'm doing on his part. The first time I'm seeing the slides also. Water, sanitation, and water management is important. So is solid waste management, right? Okay. Stormwater drainage with zero discharge policy is a fantastic idea. Power and energy, third largest transmission distribution. Yes, of course, we have to make our meters and grid more smarter. Next, please. Despite being Facebook's second largest, yeah, the speed is bad, and we are unfortunately experiencing that, and we are experiencing the anomaly in the internet, and therefore the communication gap. Next, please. Okay, Mr. Nair, we have seen your slides, but we miss your personal intervention, sir, and we hope to see you very soon. And you have I think very precisely pointed how to manage the smart city system. And I thank you very much for information. Uh, well, sir, as a moderator, I must say that I'm enamored by the presence of all you personalities, and they were talking to you stars was fantastic. I learned so much, and people who are listening to us must have learned and realized so much. Sir, Mr. Shah, we need another 2 hours. This is not enough. And if you want to invite stars of the galaxy, we need one full day. We need
Yeah,
one full day, sir.
I
This is
think
not
it's
justice to the
already,
people.
yeah.
Yes,
It's
sir.
already
I think,
50
yes, sir.
minutes. So I think if
I
you
have
can
so much.
conclude
I have
and give
so,
it to Mr. Das Gupta.
yes, sir. We have so much to speak on, and Mr. We need half an hour for Mr. Chauhan and half an hour for everybody. And Bobby, we need to see your projects. Over to you, Mr. Das Gupta, and for winding up the webinar.
I would ask Mukul Goyal ji to kindly propose the vote of thanks, and then I'll have the conclusion. Thank you.
Hi, Mukul Saab.
Mukulji will also do the summing up, please.
Mr. Mukul Goyal is principal architect, Mukul Goyal and Associates. Very dear friend. We are from the same university, same college, and he's much into traveling. He's a great landscape architect, and he was a part of the Rajasthan chapter, and he has won the best IAA member award in 2018. He is also on the editorial board of the IAA Journal, and so on, so much. This one slide is very less for introducing Mukul Goyal. Mr. Mukul Goyal, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sangeet. Thank you so much. And this was such an interesting webinar that actually one could not make out at the time that we went through. And
yes,
it was
actually,
also
yes.
that we could probably extend the webinar slightly. But now I'll just take 1 minute of everybody just to sum up everybody's talk, and we come to know what we spoke about in totality. So our topic was smart and sustainable cities, ideas 2025, citizen-centric sustainable cities. So we had architect Gunmeet Singh. I think there was one point which was so well laid out by him, and that was about segregation of waste, which was a very practical idea and something which was very doable. I think everybody must have appreciated that. Then we had a very knowledgeable talk by Mr. A.K. Singh, and he spoke about tall buildings and urbanism and the way forward with them. And he also enlightened us with several parameters and principles of urbanism. He spoke about all these points in length. We were then followed by our very charismatic Professor Charanjit Shah, who spoke about many issues, and the main issue which he spoke about was the creation of layers, something that we should always keep in mind, not just when designing buildings, but also when we are talking about mega cities. So these layers and their interconnectivity, and the fact that they have to be walkable, cyclable, and they have to be connected with the various modes of transportation. So this was some very important things which were mentioned by him. And then we had architect Bobby Mukherjee, who has been doing fantastic works all over India, and especially the Ambi Valley was actually one of the jewels in the crown. And the beautiful ambience which he showed of the project, that was really amazing. And actually, everybody was, I must have imagined everybody very silently watching those beautiful slides explained by him. We had Mr. Naresh Kumar Singh, the group head and editor of Gates, who spoke in length again about architecture and planning through the years and the relationship with smart cities. We had Mr. Vijay Kumar Nair also, editor in chief. Unfortunately, couldn't hear him per se. Thanks to Sangeet, we were able to make out what he wanted to say, and he enlisted again the smart city ideas, and they were very enlightening. And someday, definitely, we'll call him again and we'll hear him per se. Then we had Mr. Hemant Sood, Chairman Triple ID Delhi chapter, and he came up with two major concerns that cities have to be made more design responsive, and not just the cities, but the people living in them have to be very responsive. So, and I'd like to congratulate architect Sangeet Sharma for coordinating this whole session so well, so professionally. And I would like to hand it back to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mukul. And as I requested, thank you very much, everybody on board, for your time, for your graciousness, for your knowledge, experience, and the will to share your knowledge. We all have knowledge. Very few of us have the will to share it. And you are the people whom we are blessed to be with, sir. Thank you very much. And Shah, sir, this is not enough. Dil mange more. दिल मांगे मोर तो दिल को और देना चाहिए आपको.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, sir. Thank
Yeah. Conclude.
Yeah, thank you.
You and you are here, and we are honored that such an eminent personality of ASSOCHAM is here joining us in this webinar. Please, I would request you to please conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm truly honored to have all of you here, and thank you, Mukul sir, for summarizing it very nicely. It's called an executive summary, and that's you have done it. So, and it's the theme of this was like smart and sustainable cities India 2025, and probably we have already done that through this over 2 hours. So thank you, Sangeet sir, for moderating this very patiently. Professor Charanjit sir, you are always inspiration to like thousands or millions, I don't know, but you are something. And of course, to all the speakers again, Hemant sir, Gudit sir, for your book, congratulations for being an economist, an engineer, and architect. For Naresh ji and then Vijay Kumar ji for touching the waste and water together. So on behalf of ASSOCHAM GEM, under our chairmanship Pankaj Dharkar ji and my colleague Neeraj Arora, who is the director and head GEM, who is steering all of us together with Amit, who is my colleague as joint director, and Anup, who has been throughout this all IT support and managing entire thing. I kind of heartily thanks and provide and close this thing. We are having a very wonderful GEM CP training on the 8th of August, that is Saturday, 8th of August, where all of you can join and become GEM CP certified professional. It's a very interactive, very thing. We have 29 principles. We try to be more inclusive in our certification, and I hope projects like Ambi Valley or anybody will also go for consider GEM certification. That's a pitch to Bobby, if we can consider, and that's because only 5% of the country's buildings are so-called green, and that's sustainable. So we move beyond the green and we say it's a sustainable rating because we believe in circular economy. So I would close now this thing, and thank you so much and wish you very good evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you indeed. Very wonderful, enlightening seminar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hemantji.